Good morning, I'm Frank Powers, and this is Lifestyle Tucson, the program where I speak to our neighbors, the people behind the scenes of our amazing organizations that are 501c3 nonprofits. Our friends are informing you how they serve our community, and they are here to give you updates on future projects. Let's make some new friends today. I got a letter. Hi, Frank. I wanted to reach out because I think your listeners would genuinely benefit from a conversation happening right now in our community. Thousands of Tucson area seniors are about to face decisions during Medicare's enrollment period, October 15th through December 7th, and a lot of confusion and unfortunately scam activity comes with it every year. I see it all the time. I'm Bill Baith, and I've spent my career in service to this community, 26 years with the City of Tucson Fire Department as a paramedic, captain, and battalion chief, and before that, professional baseball with the San Francisco Giants, a 1989 World Series appearance. Today, I work as a licensed Medicare advisor, and I spend a lot of time simply helping local seniors and their families understand their options at no cost, whether or not they ever become a client. I'd love to come on Lifestyle Tucson to talk through what's changing this year, commonly costly mistakes people make, and how to spot Medicare scam calls and mailers. A genuine public service conversation for your audience, not a sales pitch. Would you have room for a guest segment in the upcoming weeks? I look forward to hearing from you. Best, Bill Baith. Not a sales pitch, just a concerned citizen. That's my favorite kind of citizen. So let's play ball, because today I'm fortunate to speak with Bill Baith, licensed Medicare advisor and former catcher for the San Francisco Giants. Welcome to Lifestyle Tucson, Bill.
Thanks, Frank. It is an honor and a pleasure to be here.
I'm very excited to get a letter like that because I really do love, again, a concerned citizen and safeguarding the elderly. I've talked to another group in the past called ROSE, Resource and Outreach Safeguarding the Elderly, because scams have gotten so out of control. And there are a lot of changes going forward with Medicare that you've told me about that I had no idea what's going on. Why don't you give us some of the 101 of what Medicare is all about? Then we're going to clear up some of the confusion and talk about some of the changes in the upcoming months.
You got it, Frank. Well, first of all, Medicare basically is for people that are 65 and older. They're switching from their employer plan, or maybe they've already retired and they're just not sure what kind of plan to get. And so when you first get into Medicare, you get Part A and B. A standing for hospital, B for doctor office and outpatient visits. Now, when you were working and you paid FICA taxes, part of that is Medicare. So that's the only thing that comes from the federal government is your Part A and B card, and it's called Original or Traditional Medicare. Once you have that card, then you can select down two roads. You can go down road number 1 and choose a Medigap, or you can go down road number 2 and get an Advantage plan.
Okay, so now let's discuss some of the differences, because I was looking this up, and you do. You have Original Medicare, Medicare Advantage, Part D, and Medigap. So explain everybody what some of the differences between these, especially me.
Absolutely. And I'll start with the one that fools most people, and I'm not saying they're bad. The Advantage plan, let's start with that.
Okay.
A lot of people get lured by people claiming, hey, we've got dental, vision, hearing, chiropractic, this and that. And so what I tell people is that's your value-added benefits to the plan that isn't normal for a regular Medicare. When you're in an Advantage plan, which is, just think of it as like an employer plan, it's an HMO or a PPO, okay, which means you have to see doctors within a network. That can be quite limiting because, something happens to you and a friend tells you, hey, you need to go see this doctor. Well, if they're not in the network, then you can't go see them. And the other thing that I wanted to hit home about on Advantage plans is that when you first enroll at age 65 into an Advantage plan and you go 1 year and 1 day, you may decide after one year and 1 day that, oh my gosh, I made a mistake. I should have got a supplement plan. But now you're subject to medical underwriting. You may not pass. And now all of a sudden you're stuck with an Advantage plan your entire life. And so understanding the difference, see, a lot of people don't realize that, because when you first start your Part B with the A and B and you're 65 and older, that creates what's called a GI, or a guaranteed issue, for a supplement plan, no medical underwriting. So if you go past that, when you first get on Medicare in an Advantage plan at age 65, you have what's called a trial right number 1. What that means is within those 12 months, if you change your mind, you could go to a supplement plan with no medical underwriting. Everything has to line up perfectly, your Part A and B effective dates and also your Advantage plan date. So you're brand new, let's say it's October. So 10-1, 10-1 on A and B, and then your Advantage plan starts on 10-1. You have a trial right for 12 months. But that's why I said 1 year and 1 day.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm going to explain why that is important. Now let's shift over to the supplement plan. The original Medicare we talked about, the Part A and B, is from the federal government. You paid into it.
Yeah.
There's a number of reasons why original Medicare really stands out in my book, is because you can see any doctor. There is no network. You have access to the Mayo Clinic. I have clients that we had the same conversation before they enrolled. Weren't sure about the supplement plan, and we were in year 2, and they said, do I really need this? I said, just hang in there. And if you can afford it, let's do it, and let's ride it for another year and see what happens. Halfway through that year, he got the worst cancer he had ever experienced, and they said he had less than 3 months to live. Because he had access to the Mayo Clinic, they gave him what's called proton therapy. He was cured in 3 months. He called me and was crying and said, you saved my life. And I said, no, I just advised you on what I think or my experience and give you the knowledge to make that decision, and you made the right decision. And so original Medicare, the other reason why it's very popular with snowbirds because they can travel anywhere and pull into any town, see any doctor with no problems. With original Medicare, it bills Medicare directly, so it's like a 48-hour turnaround. Whereas if you're on an Advantage plan, there's a lot of prior authorizations. I don't know if you ever heard that, Frank, but that happens a lot. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give you another real example. I have a client that was on the Advantage plan, very happy with it, but got this really bad shoulder pain. His doctor said, oh my gosh, you've got to have an MRI and you've got to have it now. So they looked at his network. They sent him over to get an MRI. When he got there, they said, no, your insurance denied it. Now, what do you mean it denied it? They said, you don't have a prior authorization. And then when they contacted the insurance company, they said, no. We want you to first get a chest x-ray, and then we want you to go through 5 months of physical therapy before we'll approve that.
Yeah. Can I even stop right there? 'Cause
absolutely.
I've heard that many times from relatives and from family members, and I don't understand how we live in a world where a doctor with medical training tells you what you need, and then someone who never meets you and never sees you behind a desk somewhere says, no, you don't. And we want you to do what is always physical therapy, which I've had an injury or two, and sometimes physical therapy is such a ridiculous, oh, come here and turn your head, and come here and turn your head. Okay, we're going to do that. When meanwhile, someone's in agony and needs a surgery.
Correct.
That is a devastating situation and quite the puzzle.
You are absolutely correct, and it's had really bad effects on people to a point where, they get so bad because they didn't get what they needed right away. What people have to do in that situation is call their doctor and have them file an appeal. About 90% of those get overturned, but still, you're dealing with the aggravation, you're dealing with the waiting period, you're dealing with all these things that you don't need to be dealing with. So that is one of the issues with the Advantage plans, is all the prior authorizations being restricted within a network. So I like to label road number 1 freedom and road number 2 restriction.
Yeah.
And so whenever I sit down with somebody, I draw a line right down the middle of the paper and I say, this side is freedom, this side is restriction, and let me explain why. So with the original Medicare, people would come up and say, well, why don't I just keep A and B? And because it's the 80-20% rule. So when you have Part A and B for 2026, the premium for Part B is $202.90. Part A is usually premium free if you've worked 10 years or have 40 quarters. That's most people, okay? Mm-hmm. So you start off with that Part A and B card, original Medicare. You're paying a premium of $202.90. If you're collecting Social Security, they automatically will do a deduction. If you're not collecting Social Security yet, they will bill you a quarterly bill. And so they'll get a bill, and I warn them, you're going to get a bill for about $600, but I'm going to help set you up into a monthly withdrawal where it can just be monthly from your checking account through Medicare.gov. Everybody should have that account, by the way. But anyways, we do a typical scenario, and I say, okay, it's the 80-20% rule. So if you kept just A and B, then if you were hospitalized for a month and had a $100,000 bill, guess what you're on the hook for? $20,000, because there's no max out-of-pocket limit. So I don't care how big your bill is, you're going to owe 20%. So we obviously know we like original Medicare, but how do we get rid of that? That's where supplements and Medigap. So I want the listeners to understand that a Medigap and a supplement plan are exactly the same. They're just coined differently. Somebody came up with the term of Medigap because it fills in the gap of the 20% and the hospital deductible.
Okay.
So
let me tell you something you just explained. I understood. So I think we're doing great.
Good.
Because if I get it, I feel I'm a layman. I don't know nothing about nothing. So I feel that if you're saying this and I'm getting it, a lot of people are like, yeah, duh, Frank, let's go. He knows what he's talking about. So keep going, because this is really, I feel, clearing the air about a lot of things.
Well, I think so too. And then the thing about the Medigap and where people get discouraged is obviously no matter who you are, you're going to have that Part B premium. I don't care if it's an Advantage or a supplement. Obviously, if you're in a lower income bracket, state will help you out, which is Access. Okay. Access is the name for Arizona's Medicaid. Mm-hmm. If you qualify for that, depending on what level you are, they'll pay for your Part B, so you don't have to worry about that. More lower in income, the more they're going to help pay for. Mm-hmm. Okay. So once we've established that, the Medigap plans come with the premium, and we're seeing them skyrocket over this last year because we're seeing an over medical utilization. And we have more baby boomers that are coming 65 and older.
Yep. Years
ago, it was 10,000 a day. I don't even know what it is now. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that it's getting even higher. Now, I'd venture to say it's probably more like 12,000 a day. But anyway, so you have more people that are accessing Medicare, more utilization, higher costs of things. So these carriers have to adjust somewhere. Mm-hmm. So every year they submit for changes to the state, and then they adjust accordingly. But we're seeing it go up. The normal rate is about 3 to 12%. I think it's more like 15% now.
A lot of things going up, isn't it?
Somebody just starting out in Pima County on, say, a Plan G, okay, which in my opinion is the best supplement out there. A Plan G a couple years ago, $150, $160 a month to start with. I'm seeing them now at $200, $210 a month, and they're going to keep going up. Where people can combat this, there are other options out there to where you can have a lower premium, and there's even the high deductible Plan G where you can have a lower premium, like about $60 a month. And so there are options. You just need to get with a good broker that understands this, explain it to you, and what your options are. It's not as bad as you think.
Okay. So now tell me about some of those changes that are going to be going into the next year and what you think people need to know most right now about that.
So the biggest one in my book is they had to demonstrate what's called the demonstration program that started in 2025. That's where the government was subsidizing prescription drug plans, and they were offsetting and helping out with costs. And that was because that was one of the things in the Inflation Reduction Act, and it was targeted to end in 2027. And a demonstration program is another name for a trial. Okay. Mm-hmm. So they moved it up. It's ending at the end of December, and carriers do know this. And so what I'm expecting to see coming up, because I can see all the plans coming out for 2027 before AEP, mm-hmm. I expect to see a big rise in some of these prescription drug plans.
Yeah.
And so it's extremely important that this AEP, that you review your drugs, you review what other alternative plans are out there in case your plan wants to skyrocket. And also you will be receiving what's called an ANOC, an annual notice of change, in September, which should tell you about what's happening with the prescription drug plan you're on. But minimum, you should get with somebody you trust, review all your drugs, because some of these formularies are going to eliminate some of these drugs because they're too costly.
Right.
Because the carriers have to adjust to no longer being subsidized by the government.
Yeah. It's fascinating. Again, I know we live close to Nogales, but we want to just do it the right way, don't we?
That's right. We do.
So let's now talk about something that is very important as well. And it is with information like this and all these things where it is a lot of hurdles and a lot of weird things to figure out. It's scams, because people can really trick people during these situations, and they can really get them to make quick decisions and do all this stuff. And as I was saying earlier, I've talked to a great organization called ROSE, Resources and Outreach, that are safeguarding the elderly. And they talk about the amount of the billion-dollar industry scamming in Arizona has become. And that's just our state. So it's just gone through the roof, especially with all the AI stuff. Because remember, AI isn't just silly images. People are AIing memos and AIing things that are letterhead that are perfect. And you're not getting as many spelling errors anymore in a lot of these texts and a lot of these emails. So what are some of the things that are common practices for scammers? And what are some of the best practices to avoid these scams?
Obviously, Frank, you probably remember the Joe Namath commercials back in the day for Medicare. And they would say, get extra money from your Social Security and, get this and get this. And then they would have a picture of a generic Medicare Part A and B card next to an American flag. Well, because they were not specifically associating that with a specific carrier, they were allowed to do that. But all that is, things like that, commercials like that, is they are trying to get you to call them. Once you call them, you're speaking to a licensed agent who's doing nothing about trying to switch you to a plan to gain a commission. That is all that is. That isn't anybody on the other line that's trying to help you or understand what do your meds look like on this plan? Who are your doctors? What are your concerns? They're not doing that. They want to switch you to a plan as quickly as possible.
Okay.
So what CMS did is they tightened up the screws and said you can no longer do that. You can't associate the flag with an A and B card because it looks like it's us.
Right.
Yeah, so you saw those go away. They're what's called a TPMO, or a third-party marketing organization. So that is where you get a lot of the issues is from these TPMOs. But now with technology and being eliminated off TV, they're getting smarter. They're posting YouTube videos, and seniors are using those, and they find it. Will text me like every 3 weeks, is this a scam? Text me a YouTube video. And every time I'm like, yes, it is. Don't do it. So seniors are getting bombarded. We're seeing an unprecedented amount of scammers. The best ways and that's just one example, nobody's ever going to call you and ask you for information or ask you for your Medicare information or, anything. They're not going to call. They're just not going to. So if you're getting a call like that, you just need to hang up. And so you got to remember that the only person or it's going to reach out to you is the carrier themselves. They can call their member over something, but make sure who they are, that you can identify who they are, all those things to, make it legit. But even still, my general rule of thumb is somebody's calling you, don't talk to them. If it was from somebody, say, pretending to be somebody from a particular carrier, just hang up and call that carrier member number on the back of your card and said, hey, I just got a call about this. Is this going on? And they can confirm whether it is true or not, or whether you need to do something. Always seek the information. Use your member services number on the back of your card. Also, if you have a broker, use your broker. If you have a trusted broker that you have a great relationship with, that's your best asset because they know the market, they know the plans, they can help you navigate what you need to navigate because it's a scary world out there. And right now it's even a lot scarier. But that's just a couple of them. So my advice is seek a trusted broker who understands everything. And again, in my opinion, it's got to be somebody that you have a relationship with, somebody that you're familiar with, that you trust, and has helped you with Medicare. That would be my best advice.
Yeah, it is good advice. Again, even myself, I've been caught up in a scam or two because people are clever.
Yes.
And you don't realize it, and things can happen fast, and all of a sudden you're out either a few bucks or a few $1,000, and things happen quick. So another bit of advice, again, don't click those links in an email. Go type it in your URLs yourself if you're trying to get to your accounts, to your official things, because that's how they get you too. It's these links. So links in YouTube videos, Don't be clicking those links. Type things directly from the web address spot, and then you'll go to your right locations and destinations online so that you're not getting scammed and not getting, tracked or accidentally downloading any software onto your computer, because that's another big way that they get you. So be careful out there because there is a lot of that going on, and there's a lot of ways to safeguard yourself. Go look up any resources that there are to do that. But like I said, I had a great conversation with Rose, and you can listen to that anytime on demand over on Lifestyle Tucson's YouTube page, Spotify, all the places that great radio shows turn into podcasts. So now let's talk about something else fun. baseball.
I love it.
That's right, because this man was in the World Series and he hit a 3-run shot in Game 3 of the World Series in 1989 for the San Francisco Giants. What a big deal. I gotta ask you something, because every kid out there dreams of that exact moment. A 3-run shot. So tell me what that actually felt like, because I do want to talk about that, because a rare, fun opportunity. We can't talk about getting everybody all bummed out about all this stuff. Let's talk about some fun, cool things right now, and then we will just finish up with some other good advice. But that is every kid's dream. So tell me about it.
Well, it was certainly my dream growing up to play Major League Baseball, and I attended Pepperdine University and was drafted out of there by the Oakland A's. I eventually ended up with the San Francisco Giants. And just like anything in life, you get obstacles and you work around them. I had a lot of injuries coming through the minors, but when I finally got to the 89 World Series, first of all, like you said, there are no words to describe what that's like. And to give you an example, during batting practice in the World Series, there's so much media there that it's from the first base side all the way to the dugout, all the way around home plate, all the way around to the third base side, international media. I had to push people aside to get up to the batting cage to take my cuts. And as I'm walking in, and for the listeners, I was a catcher. When I walked into the batting cage, there's Johnny Bench and Jim Palmer.
Wow.
And I'm like, ugh. So I turn around and I start hitting. And Johnny Bench he loves my stroke. So he's commenting, oh, man, I've heard so much about you, Bill, and what a great stroke and blah, blah. So after about the fourth cut, I held my hand up. I turned around and I go, Johnny, do you know how surreal this is? You're like my idol. And Jim Palmer, my wife, loves your underwear commercials. And they both started laughing. And then I turned around and kept hitting. But it was a pinch me moment where, is this real? And so when we got to Game 3, we were down, and I was like the number one pinch hitter for Roger Craig when the game was on the line. I faced nothing but the best relievers. And so we were down, and we had 2 men on, and I came in to pinch hit. And, of course, as I'm walking up to home plate, all I could think about was I lived my whole life for this moment.
Wow.
And with each step, like I always did, I got calmer, more focused. And once I'm in the batter's box, it's you and me. And so he left a pitch out over the plate. I hit a 3-run dinger off him, and I remember rounding the bases, and it was like my life flashed before me, to be honest with you. And people always ask me, what were you thinking? And I remember telling myself, slow down. And when I see the replay, I go, yeah, I probably could have jogged it even a little slower, to enjoy it. But my good friend from the A's was playing left field, Tony Phillips, the late, great Tony Phillips, rest in peace. But he tried to jump up on the fence and get it. And if you look at the replay, the ball's way in the back. He had no chance. But the next day I came to the park, I saw him and go, Tony, come here. We need to talk. And he couldn't stop laughing. And then in Game 4, he actually robbed me of a hit. So I'm yeah. So
that's awesome. I'll tell you, any advice for any young, not even just athletes, because it is just something to achieve, let's just say, greatness in a very small club. That's a very small club that get to be a Major League Baseball player, and then an even smaller club that make it to the World Series and all of that stuff. For these young athletes, or young entrepreneur, or anyone, when they're just up against it and going for the gold, essentially, what advice can you give anybody when they have doubt?
Always believe in yourself and trust your ability. And I'll give you an example. When I first walked into Yankee Stadium and I looked over and, there's all the Yankee greats, and you're sitting there staring and you're thinking, who am I, Bill Baith? You had to calm yourself. And what I used to tell myself is I work too hard, trust your ability, relax, and just go out there and do it. Whenever in my life, I always think that baseball prepared me for life itself. Mm-hmm. It's because you learn how to deal with defeat and you learn how to deal with obstacles. Too many people get 1 or 2 obstacles and they say, well, this ain't working. I got to try something else. Negative. You take those defeats and that's a learning experience. Now, how can I get around this obstacle? How can I reach my goal? When you do that, your mind starts mapping out a path for what you need to do. The biggest thing is always believe in yourself. When first day I ever stepped on a big league field in Oakland, I got there early, had headphones on, and I remember running around in the outfield, and I kept telling myself, this is your destiny.
There you go.
And so it's all about belief.
That's something.
Yeah.
I love that. That
Yeah.
is excellent. All right. You got to believe. That's fantastic.
Yes.
So true. If anybody wants to talk to you and get a little more information right from you, how can they contact you?
Just call me, Bill Baith, at 520-429-6763, and I can answer any questions you have.
I'm going to challenge you with one thing. If you could sum up everything you said about Medicare in a baseball analogy, what would it be if you can?
Hit a home run with Bill Baith.
There you go. All right, that's the spirit. You might have even stolen my out, because today we made friends with licensed Medicare advisor Bill Baith. Medicare advice, that's a home run. Thanks so much for joining me today.
It's my absolute pleasure, Frank.
This was Lifestyle Tucson. Bing bong bing, time for a recap. What a great conversation with Bill. That was excellent. I can at least tell you how to spell his name, Billbathe, and he told you where to reach him. For more questions at 520-429-6763. I do care a lot about people advocating for the elderly and trying to help everybody out and understand our very confusing healthcare system, because there's really a lot to unravel and unpack when you're trying to figure out how to take care of yourself, and finding out that you can make a wrong move that you can't undo after 100 days or after 101 days is pretty alarming. So make sure you know everything that's going on and keep yourself informed. And also, remember, you can listen to that other episode of Lifestyle Tucson with Rose, resources and outreach safeguarding the elderly. It was a great conversation so that you can help protect yourself against scams. There's a lot of them going around, a lot of tricky folks out there. I almost got taken in by, again, some of our information is public record. Yes. So I'll tell you a story about a scam. I had apparently missed jury duty and I didn't know. And that's on some sort of public record because I got a phone call from a scammer pretending to be a police officer, who then did connect me with another quote unquote police officer, keeping me on the phone for quite some time when I was in a rush. So I was in a panic. But I know the second anyone tries to get any money out of me, which he assured me he hadn't done this whole time. He hadn't done. But up until he did, and then I yelled at him and he broke character as well, and what a fraud. So they're out there and they've got these amazing elaborate plays that they will put on for you. So make sure that you know who to trust. Make sure you get yourself informed so that you know what's going on when it comes to making big decisions about your healthcare. So I want to thank our new friend Bill Baith for joining me today. You've been listening to Lifestyle Tucson. If you're a nonprofit that would like to be on the show, email lifestyletucson@gmail.com like Bill did. For more information about this program or to listen to something you may have missed, go to the Sunday Mornings page on klpx.com, kfma.com, mixfm.com, or espntucson.com. You can also subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, and Audible, or wherever fine podcasts are hitting a ground rule double. Follow on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at Lifestyle Tucson, because I'm your BFF, your best Frank forever, Frank Powers, and toot toot Tucson. I love you the most.